Would you like to learn from those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level? Best-selling author of Speakeasy and master connector Lou Diamond is here to connect you to some of the most inspiring and amazing people on this planet. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Are you kidding me? I'm getting sick of the industry. I've had enough of the make-believe. Oh please, am I lost or found?
Welcome everyone to another spectacular episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond, and today on Thrive Loud, we have actor, singer, Broadway performer, writer, producer, proud father, and one of America's most trusted voices in the modern conversation on Jewish identity, culture, and current events. He is the host of the Being Jewish podcast. I am truly honored to have him here today. Thrive Loud listeners, Jonah Platt. Jonah, welcome to Thrive
Lou,
Loud.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Thrive Loud listeners.
For those who have been following this show, the last several years, I've made some interjections here or there as someone who is Jewish. And one of the people that I've been absolutely just incredibly fond of and respectful is this gentleman. And we just talked about at the top of the show because of what he's putting out there. And it's a pretty cool story. The way I want to run this interview, because we're going to cover the gamut here, Jonah, I kind of want to do a little rewind. We don't need to go all the way back to the womb, but we kind of want to go back. I want to understand how this became your focus. What was the impetus to making being Jewish, not your program, but just being Jewish, the focus of the content you share today?
It's a great question. All right. And I appreciate the parameters, because sometimes people are like, well, how did it happen? And then I have to start from when I was 2. So we're going to skip over the childhood, but the quick part of speaking of childhood, maybe you can hear my daughter screaming in the other room. My childhood was very Jewish as far as American conservative Judaism goes. So I grew up celebrating all the holidays, going to Jewish day school, going to Jewish sleepaway camp, which is all to say that being Jewish has always been an integral part of my identity. I never remember not feeling, identifying as Jewish. Super important to my family, my grandparents, my aunts, my uncles, my parents, my siblings. So always surrounded by and warm feelings about it. Like being Jewish meant family, really, to me growing up, and like friendship. Then, I, as many 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds do, I definitely rebelled against the religious piece of it. Even though I liked, I could tell there was something intellectually and morally interesting there. I didn't want to be forced to go to prayers. I didn't want to be forced to have some conversation I didn't feel like having. So if you would have seen me at 14 or 15 and been like, he's going to be the Being Jewish podcast guy, you wouldn't have believed it. So then, fast forward, let's say to 2021. So big jump. Again, being Jewish, still part of my life. I'm trying to find, like, as an adult, sort of like, especially before you have a spouse or children, trying to find where you connect to the Jewish community. It can be tricky because you no longer have that structure of school or camp or whatever. So I'd be finding various programs and Shabbat dinners and this and that. 2021, I'm focused career-wise totally on entertainment and had been since 2008. But there's an incident of violence in spring of 2021 between Israel and Hamas in Gaza and it was really complicated and confusing. It had to do with these evictions in this Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood. Like, it was really opaque. And I noticed online on social media, where I had somewhat of a platform from my entertainment career, that people were really confused, and that there was a lot of nasty rhetoric going around and confused rhetoric, and that my fellow Jewish community members were struggling to A, make sense of it, and B, talk about it, how they were feeling. And I just felt like I had my finger on the pulse of it a bit, being somebody who has always been engaged and educated on the current events and had visited Israel many times and studied this stuff just because I cared about it. And so I started talking online a little bit around that. And the response was really positive. Like, people found it to be of service, of value. And that was, encouraging to me that, okay, good. Like, I'm helping people. That's what I'm trying to do. But again, it was still like a side hustle, like not even a full side hustle, like a quarter side hustle. Then it started to slowly pick up sort of organically. I went on an amazing trip to Israel in April of 2023 for an organization called the Tel Aviv Institute, which is run by sort of the granddaddy, even though he's like small and cute, the granddaddy of sort of social media Jewish influencers, this guy named Chen Mazig, who's all over social media. And he brought like 20 people who have social media platforms from around the world in all different disciplines, not just people talking about being Jewish, but people, fashion and food and whatever, brought us all together to Israel to sort of do a little lab about what makes people successful influencers. And really my big takeaway from that was I was so inspired by the peer group, seeing, this woman from Germany, this woman from Rwanda, this woman from Britain, all Jewish, all being themselves online and like connecting with people. And I was like, I want to do that more. And so I came back from that trip and I started doing a little more advocacy. And for me, pre-October 7th, Jewish advocacy was always very celebratory. It was about Jewish joy and empowerment and inclusivity. Then October 7th happens. And the way I say it is that it just poured gasoline on the fire of my advocacy. I found that, there's a Mark Cuban quote I think of where he says, "Don't follow your dreams, follow your effort." And like my effort was all going into that space. I was not wanting to get away from my phone or my computer and go rehearse an audition to be a guest star on NCIS, CIA, FBI. And I just
nice
wanted,
alphabet soup there. I totally
right. That's my favorite franchise.
Yeah.
So people were, obviously this was like the historic moment of my lifetime and of, certainly one of the global historic moments we've had, I would argue, since maybe the fall of the Soviet Union. I mean, this could be really changed the geopolitical scene in the world, and the explosion of anti-Jew hate was something we haven't seen in decades. And I just felt like I wanted to meet that moment. It wasn't even really a decision. I was just pouring myself into it. Then the decision part came a couple months later. So we've been, reacting. I've been educating, communicating, trying to explain what's going on, pushing back against the hate, putting out fires in the real world and online. And I was like, okay, I want to get back to the proactive stuff, like the thing that I've always cared about, which is being inclusive, like bringing more Jews into the tent, creating community, educating people about what Jews are, both within and without the Jewish community. Like there are many Jews who don't fully understand what Jews are, how different they can be, what that can look like. Certainly outside the community, people know almost nothing about Jews. So I wanted to go back to that and empowering sort of Jewish pride and identity. And the way that I landed on that was the podcast. And there was actually like a really big crossroads moment for me in the summer of last year where sort of my mind and my heart were kind of at war with each other, where my heart was like, it's okay to step away from the entertainment stuff, whether it's temporary or permanent or whatever, and put your whole self into this. And my brain, which actually part of this was that I got diagnosed with ADHD as an adult last year also. So my brain was going, you can't step away. That will make you a quitter. That means you're not good enough. That means you didn't live up to your potential. That means you wasted your gifts. That means like all this negative stuff. And at the same time as I was getting diagnosed with ADHD and learning about what that actually looks like, I think, most people think it's like a kid who can't sit still in class. But there's so much more to it than that. And what I realized on reading that all of those negative thoughts I was having are textbook ADHD thoughts. That people with ADHD never feel like they're good enough, no matter what they've accomplished. They always feel like they're not living up to their potential. They're always the predilection is to jump around from thing to thing. You said in my intro, writer, singer, actor, producer. I'm always doing a million different things, and like sort of understanding all that allowed me to let it go and say, hey, I've actually accomplished quite a lot in my entertainment career. And there's nobody saying, he's a failure, he's a quitter, he didn't do it. Certainly not, the people I care about. And I began to finally not say that to myself And that freed me up to go, full bore into the podcast and into speaking about this stuff and being able to just be thinking about this stuff all day long, which is what I really care about. And it was sort of the first time in a long time I felt like I had really like clicked in to my full authentic self. Like I'd been swimming upstream and I jumped into a totally different stream. And now I'm like, oh, this feels right. This feels nice.
I like that you listen to your heart over your head, which is a good
It took me a minute. I mean, it was a struggle. And I was like, I ended up going on Zoloft because like it's been so helpful for my ADHD, for like my impulsivity. I know more people take it for like anxiety and other things. I don't have anxiety, but I take it for, just sort of like, it moves the like tripwire of my impulsivity a little further down the road. But I was like really like the tension inside me was manifesting in these impulsive outbursts where I was just not, my fuse was like gone. And my ability to feel calm and in myself and content was like gone because there was such a war going on. I was not comfortable in my skin. And once this all happened, like literally I changed overnight, Lou. Like as soon as I figured all of this out and like made the decision, like my life was amazing the next morning. Like it literally took care, it all went away once I did the right thing.
Doing the right thing. We're going to rewind here because to your point, October 7th is a tragedy, which at the day that it happened, they were doing comparisons of what that was like from a 9/11 perspective. When you think about the size of Israel versus the size of the United States and how absolutely it was a 50 times worse from a percentage piece of what it was, and an awful piece. Yet, to what you shared, it triggered what October 8th ended up becoming was a flip within a week of not just sympathy or I can't believe this horrible thing has happened, but an explosion of Jewish hatred and anti-Semitism across the board at levels that seemed like it was almost planned, like the absolute greatest PR campaign of all time.
Which it kind of has been, Lou. I mean, they've been planting these seeds for decades, and that's why it was able to erupt, because it was all here already, and we'd been seeing it, bubbling around. It just hadn't had a fissure to come out of yet.
Well, that's where I would want to ask you. I am 20 some odd years older than you.
You don't look it, man. You look great.
Thank you. It's a follically challenged thing that we deal with, but I just try and keep as smooth as it is. But you're at your age, I'm at mine, and I know that in your lifetime, really there hasn't been signs of anti-Semitism. Really, in a very long period of time, it may have been there. I remember I grew up in the 1970s, where I remembered I played as the only Jewish person on a CYO basketball team, and an Irish Catholic coach was calling me Goldberg because he couldn't remember what my name was, and not recognizing that there were signs of words like hike or heeb or other things that were part of the dialogue and I think have always been there. And this is my question to you. Is it new, or is it just an unearthing with a volume and ability to communicate it at levels we've never seen before? Has it ever left, or is this just something that is brand new in your mind, in your opinion?
So I'll answer that in a couple ways. So first of all, off the bat, anti-Jew hate, not only is it not new, and this is the cliche, but it's because it's true. It is the oldest hate in the world. Mm-hmm. People have been finding ways to blame Jews for things for literally thousands of years. On my podcast, I actually did a breakdown. I picked like 10 of the greatest hits of like extreme blaming and violence against Jews throughout history. There's literally 100 examples. So far from new. And especially, when the stuff you're talking about from the 70s, that's what we would maybe call right-wing anti-Semitism, the sort of in-your-face, Nazi level, like, I hate the Jews, bad words, slurs kind of hate. That's always been there, but it had been from, I'd say, like the mid-late 70s, really until, and I am going to put it on his feet a little bit, until the Trump 1.0 administration. It had not been cool to talk about that at all. You were not allowed to be above ground being anti-Jew, racist, or bigoted. It was frowned upon by society. I think the first sort of negative thing that was big in public was the way his rhetoric of being able to sort of belittle and denigrate every identity of every kind and just speak hatefully about everybody sort of opened the box to people being like, oh, I can sort of say whatever I want and be as hateful as I want to whoever I want. So he kind of and then you saw, in if this was like in the late 20-teens, early 2020s, there was a lot of right-wing violence against Jews. That's when there was a shooting in Poway, a shooting in Pittsburgh at the Tree of Life Synagogue, the situation in Coleyville. I mean, like multiple mass shooting targeted events against Jews. Those all came from the right. So that was there. The hate on the left, the tricky part is it's much harder to spot. The best sort of treatise about what anti-Jew hate on the left has looked like in contemporary times is a book called Jews Don't Count by David Baddiel. This really opened my eyes when I read it. Basically, the way that the anti-Jew hate manifests from the left is double standards and exclusion against Jews based on lies and falsehoods. So, for example, in our DEI forward, oppressor versus oppressed, white colonial imperialists, all that stuff is the bad guy world. If we pretend that Jews are all rich white European colonizers, which is just factually couldn't be further from the truth. Yeah. Not the majority of the Jews on earth don't even present as white.
Right.
But if we pretend like they are, and also there's the same amount of poor Jews as there are rich Jews, that's just a media trope. If we pretend they're all rich white Europeans, then we can make them the bad guy. Then they don't belong in DEI spaces. They don't deserve to be treated like a minority. They don't deserve to have any sort of compassion or understanding. They are the villains. And it's so insidious because, if you're not paying attention for that and you're not Jewish, like you don't know that Jews have been excluded. Like you don't know that there are, employee resource groups at this company for every single possible group, but they won't let Jews have one because they think Jews are just a religion and not, a tribal people. And these are major companies. And this is even today. Like I talk to people all the time who are like, they won't let me have one for the Jews. The Jews are not allowed to have an affinity group in the business. And with October 7th, that sort of hate exploded where now, we're just pulling out all the social justice words and lobbing them at the Jews. Genocide, apartheid, colonial, all this stuff that if you take 10 minutes to actually look at the facts is not true. And at the very least is far more complicated and nuanced than just these horrible words that make it sound like if you are the perpetrator of these, you are the evil beyond all evils. We don't need to talk about it. We don't need to listen to you. We don't need to engage with you. Your opinions don't matter because you're as bad as a Nazi. So, death to you. And that's where we're at. And a lot of that comes from, baked in anti-Semitism. And a lot of it, as we said a few moments ago, has sort of been planted very purposefully and strategically by foreign powers via billions of dollars, literally, of investment in our universities and our schools and in organizing and groups around the country and all kinds of, and social media, which has allowed this stuff to really explode. They are, well organized bots. The organizational chart of these people is crazy. I mean, they've really got it down. Kudos to them. They did a great job. And we were sort of caught napping while this was all getting planted. And now the scoreboard, it's like 1,000,000-2. And we're just, bringing the ball up the court for the first time.
This is what I want to go down because I took my family to Yad Vashem in Israel. I recently caught the Nova exhibit when it was in New York City. My wife, my daughter, and I went. And when I've been to places like this, I leave with two feelings. One is an unbelievable emotional connection to being Jewish, which I'm very proud of, and I feel the history in near recent and from ago. And the second thought that comes through is that I feel like these venues and the content that's being created is preaching to the congregation, for lack of a better word, because it's the rest of the world that needs to see this. When I walked through the Nova exhibit, I'm like, this is unbelievable. How many people need to see this? I want to bring it to the content that you create, and which is important. You are educating and providing a sign of what it means to be Jewish, and an education factor that's out there. But to your point, we're battling algorithms with this message, to get our message across, that the people that might need to see and hear this content might not be able to even ever see it. One, how do we fight that? And how do we play with this 1,000,000-2 scoreboard in your mind? Because obviously we have to do something. You're doing it. Other people are doing it. What else can we do?
It's a great question, and this is an organic plug for the pod. Literally, my opening to this week's episode is me answering this question over like a 10-minute monologue, but I'll give you the less than 10-minute version. We have to do a couple things. In terms of breaking out of the echo chamber, I get asked this question a lot when I'm doing panels about social media and all this stuff. If you want to be outside the echo chamber, you have to aim outside the echo chamber and try to get out there. There are a lot of people online who are just, as you say, preaching to the choir. I'll give you an example. Let's use the Nova exhibit. So the one in LA, Scooter Braun, music mogul, controversial figure for some, but an amazing, dedicated member of the tribe. What he did to break outside the echo chamber was he worked out of Nova for like a month. Like, that was his office. Every business meeting he had, the person had to come there. He brought group after group after group. He pulled people in from outside the echo chamber. It's like, you need to come and see this. That's what we all really have to be doing. That's what I try to do with my show. And I know, thank God, it's working. I'm not the most popular show in the non-Jewish world, but I have a lot of non-Jewish listeners and followers who I hear from all the time, who are like, thanks for this education. I'm learning so much, and it's entertaining and it's accessible, and I feel invited. I feel included, because it's been very purposeful for me to make sure I'm being open and inclusive, that I explain things, that I don't get too inside baseball and assume everybody knows everything. I have, from the very beginning, I'd say 30-40% of my guests are not Jewish that I bring on the show, but are people who have a connection to our community and are amazing allies. But I want to make sure that people see, A, this show is for them too, and B, that they're bringing their audiences with them of non-Jewish people who follow them for the things that they do. Which also goes for my other guests. My Jewish guests, they have fan bases that are beyond just Jews for many of them. So I think that's really important. And in terms of like fighting the algorithm piece, again, part of it, we're sort of screwed. I mean, to be honest, unless somebody can get to these, Mark Zuckerbergs and get them to understand how detrimental this is, and like that it's more important to, be benevolent than to be a billionaire. That would be the easiest step, and just make them stop doing what they're doing. But barring that, we have to be proactive. So like, your algorithm will show you stuff if you're actively engaging with stuff outside your bubble. So if you want to be more, clued in to the Jewish community, the Muslim community, I speak about this on the show in terms of, there are so many moderate Muslims all over the world. Like, the big battle we're in, really zooming out everywhere, is moderates versus extremists. Yep. In America, globally, politics, in the Jewish stuff, like everything. There are moderates everywhere, but you're not going to see them and hear them and feel supported by them and know there are allies out there if you're not proactively looking for them on social media, and not just following, but engaging. That if you just follow a bunch of people and never comment and never look at their stories and never do that, like, the algorithm thinks you're not that interested, and it's not going to put it on your home feed. So we have to be engaging. And then to fight some of the other stuff, we need to be doing what the other side has been doing. So we need to be investing in universities instead of having Jewish donors, putting their name on a hospital wing, which is beautiful, but other people care about hospitals too. Put your name on a Jewish studies chair at a university. Put your name on a tenured professorship in Middle East studies. That's really critical. And for regular old people, like, start showing up to school board meetings, town hall meetings, go to your state house, pay attention, because a lot of what they have done so successfully is the sort of bottom up infiltration, where now you have city councils. Let's say there was one in California just a week ago. I forget the name of the community, but there were some virulent sort of anti-Jewish like textbook, all the stuff I've said already, like from the left, speaking to a Jewish constituent, like, you don't count, like you are a genocider, you have no say in this. And they passed a really harmful like ethics study curriculum for the school and their district easily because the whole council was full of people who hold this point of view. So we've got to get involved. And, something that I think is really key, and then I'll let you go because I'm rambling, is, you don't have to start a podcast. You don't have to run an organization. You don't have to, make this your day job, but you do have to get involved. You've got to do something. We can't just like assume other people are going to take care of this and wait another couple decades and like hope it works itself out.
It's funny. Obviously, from my podcast, we're featuring those that are thriving in their lives, their businesses, and their passions. We have a rainbow of diverse types of people, famous people, content creators, CEOs, business folks, actors, athletes, you name it. It's become 11 some odd hundred episodes in, Jonah. I have no idea what it's become, but what I noticed was that I do have a voice and a place to get out there. And to your point of doing something, having you on here has been something that I earmarked and said, this is something we want to do because it is something that matters to me. And I have some algorithm things that don't flow into every single thing that yours will flow into. And I want to try and spread the word there. I also happen to have been a parent of 2 children who went to a university where I couldn't believe what was going on at the university. It was so shocking. And I think a lot of it, the immediate reaction you've seen from very large, wealthy people in the Jewish community was to not contribute to the universities, where I think maybe financially that is correct, but I think they need to step in more and make changes to try and make things better, which is hard because you're not trying to run away. You need to step in. I think it's a foot forward thing as opposed to a runaway thing, and I am with you on that. And that to me is one of the biggest challenges.
I totally agree with you on that, Lou. I think that's huge. We can't like abandon ship because then we're just giving it over. You have to stay and use your influence to make the changes that need to be made. So I wholeheartedly agree with what you just said.
And as I look forward, I think there's a lack of education on a lot of it. I don't want to get on a political spectrum here because we adjusted. And by the way, listeners, I will put a link if you haven't yet. One of the best conversations I heard was you and Dana Bash discussing exactly what you covered earlier from CNN, a guest on his show, who is traditionally right Republican, I think, is Dana.
She is, yeah.
And I thought that was great because it took the political sides out, but it really hit home on the level of anti-Semitism that was coming. Phenomenal educational piece and a great way to understand the challenge. But the education, and this is the thing that I want to ask. I ask content creators all the time, Jonah. You have created an amazing piece of content, which is a gift to us, the listeners and viewers. There's always a happy accident that happens, Jonah, when you put out this great content, whether it's a book, a movie, a podcast, great content. Somehow, the content creator gets a gift in return. Jonah, what has being Jewish, the podcast, given you? What's the happy accident you've received in putting this stuff out there?
Well, the one thing I'll say, Lou, is I wouldn't call it an accident because, and I'm not to toot my own horn, but I took 8 months to plan the launch of this podcast and was really intentional and sort of used, I'm not throwing shade on anybody who like wakes up and says, I'm going to be a podcaster and grabs a mic and goes. But I've spent, my career in entertainment, writing, performing, directing, and I sort of brought all of those skills and the high level of production quality and creativity and thought to this. I sing the theme song. Like I brought it all because I really intentionally hoped and planned for it to have the impact that it's having. And so I won't call it an accident, but what certainly has been the best part is the reaction that I've gotten. And I'll say less accident, maybe more surprise is just how successful it's been in reaching a diverse audience. Like, I don't think I expected to get in the same day a message from someone who's ultra Orthodox and says, this show is for me. And somebody who says, I just found out my mom is Jewish a month ago. This show is for me. People like that, like Republican, Democrat, old, young, all different, random Asian country, random US state, like all these different people coming. That's exceeded my expectations for sure in a beautiful way. And I save my favorite comments. I have like an album, I screenshot all of them. And it's just so meaningful. It's like I could never go back full time to doing the other stuff I was doing, knowing how helpful this is for people, which is just sort of all I wanted it to be, was of use. And to see how of use it is to people has definitely exceeded my expectations in the best way, and been for sure the happiest piece to come out of it.
Before we get to the plug section in Fun Street here with Jonah, I want to hit this part. You did a lot of planning on this, starting from scratch and nothing. The entrepreneurialness of putting this together, probably something you had never figured out. Maybe some unexpected good things or really challenging things from the aspect of bringing the program to life. I'd love you to share that with the listeners. I think it would be pretty cool.
Yeah, this has been like, I've really enjoyed that piece of the journey. I've never invested in myself in this way. I have always been in entertainment, as a writer, as an actor, whatever. You're always trying to get somebody else to pick you for their thing. And this was the first time that I said, okay, now I'm going to do things my way, which had been the kind of person I've always been. I've always been a leader. I've always been a creator of things. I just hadn't had the opportunity really to do it professionally for a long time. So I've loved getting into that entrepreneurial spirit and building this from the ground up. I would say I'm learning something new every day. I'm making changes all the time. I have an amazing team that I've been sort of assembling piece by piece as I go, swapping parts in and out. The thing that I would say is the biggest challenge is time has been my biggest challenge. And trying to find the right team members who I can trust. And like, some people, I guess, have a hard time with delegating. I love delegating. I wish I could delegate everything except for like writing the monologue, showing up, and shooting the episode, but I do pretty much everything because, or at least everything has to go through me, because I'm just not quite at the place where I have the full trust where everything goes smoothly and perfectly if I'm not putting my fingers on it. So trying to get the right, like, I'm getting closer and closer. The color's getting filled in, but it's not a full picture yet. And I get closer and closer, but I have to keep sort of looking. I'm like, again, I'm looking to hire like a copywriter right now, like part-time, because I'm doing like all of the writing for all of our social media descriptions. I'm doing a lot, or at the very least, I'm having to edit all of them. And it just takes so much time. And what it pulls away from is the entrepreneurial aspect, because I'm putting so much time and energy into the running of the thing that I'm not able to do sort of the big ideation. What's the next step? Okay, I've fulfilled this dream. Now I got to dream bigger. What comes after this stuff? It's like I have to find my little moments where I can move that ball ahead, because I'm spending so much time just keeping it moving. Yeah. Part of what I've done is I'm baking in a little break. I'm taking a summer hiatus. So I'm not going to be 12 months a year. I'm going to be more like 10 and a half months of the year. And over that time, I'll be able to really dedicate myself to shoring up the team, shoring up the ideas. How am I going to, supersize season 2? And like, what am I going to do with stuff? I've had people asking me like, when can I buy some merch? And I'm like, I want to. I have like a site sort of set up. I haven't had the time to like sit down and make a t-shirt, because I don't have a person yet, and like other things are coming in the way. So that's definitely been the challenge. And I'll say like an amazing positive thing that's happened is now like 3 or 4 people on my team are people who reached out to me on social media because they love the show and want to be a part of it. And I've basically I don't really say no. If somebody's like that passionate and proactive and has something to offer, I'll find something for them to do. As much as I can. So I have some amazing young women, really. It's mostly women in their 20s, Jewish women on my team who have reached out and said, I really want to be involved in this work. How can I contribute? And that's like a big chunk of my team now, which has been awesome, and they're fantastic.
Let's do the admin part of the show. Share with the listeners all the places they can learn about you, where they can find everything. We will put it all in the notes. gets more engagement when they hear it from you, Jonah.
Amazing. Thank you. So on Instagram, that's sort of my main social platform. You can follow me at Jonah Platt. That's also X at Jonah Platt. The pods at Being Jewish Podcast. We are on TikTok at Being Jewish and at Jonah Platt 1. YouTube. youtube.com/ at Being Jewish Podcast. You can watch all of our episodes, the interviews, the monologues, highlights, all there. You can listen to this show on all your favorite audio podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get it. We also happen to be on television on Jewish Broadcast Service, which you can watch on cable, on your Roku, Fire Stick, all of that stuff. And we're also now streaming on something called Izzy at israelstream.tv. So that comes with like 1,000 other programs. If you sign up for that, we're now on there as well. So,
Amazing.
pick your poison.
Pick your poison. And now we are going to head on down to the Speakeasy Pub Crawl. We're going to go down Fun Street here.
Love Fun Street.
You're going to love every bit of this. First of all, we're going to do a little shift. We're going to ease onto this highway with the first question. And it's a good person to be asking here. It's somebody in the entertainment business. Does Jonah have an all-time favorite movie?
Inception.
Oh, it was just on the other day, by the way. It still blows my mind. It was like on HBO.
It should be. It's like the greatest movie ever.
It is. The one common thing that Nolan does is he messes with time in every single one of his episodes. Time is always the weird variable. Everything is all out. Inception, the dream in a dream in a dream in a dream, whatever it is, breaking the fourth wall.
Yeah.
My head was exploding. I'm like, how many months are they down there? It was so warped and so weird, but it is awesome. I am a huge fan.
Love it. It's so cinematic. I like things that are genre. Can you hear my daughter screaming right now?
That's awesome. It's better than the doggies screaming when we have the dog.
Can I let her in? Can we?
Yeah,
bring
let her
on
in. Let her
All
come
right,
on the show. Let's bring her in. We'll ask her what her favorite movie is. It's probably something else.
Say hi.
Let's say hey, hello there. And who do we have here?
This is Raquel.
Hi, Raquel. Welcome to
Say
Thrive
hello.
Loud.
Okay, so I was saying I like movies that are genre benders, and I like movies that like can't be told except in the medium of film.
Yep.
I'm like, try it. You can't do Inception as a book. You can't do it as a play. You can't do it as anything but that movie. And I it's just so perfectly crafted and acted and fun for my brain. And I love that one. And action, like amazing.
So let's do this. The speed round here. First thing that comes to your mind, Jonah. Here we go. Of late, a song that you love to listen to or one that pumps you up that is not Wheels on the Bus Go Round and Round. I've heard that before.
Well, that's all that plays at my house. So I'm going to give you two answers because the first thing you said, like the song that you've been listening to, I've been listening to Chapel Roan, Pink Pony Club has been like in my head on loop. It's not that newest song; it's just in my head.
I'm gonna go there on this. She's had a little controversy, has she not?
She has, but I'm a big separate the art from the artist guy.
Okay.
Like
All right.
I don't need to get involved. I don't know. Yeah, babe. I don't know her. Whatever. I see you're looking at Bluey. And then my pump up song is a song called "Don't Lose Sight" by the band Lawrence, and that's like my favorite song of the last 20 years, and that's what gets me totally pumped no matter what I'm doing.
Favorite food that's not a dessert.
Favorite food that's not a dessert?
We're sorry in advance.
Oh, it's all good.
Favorite food that's not a dessert? Korean barbecue.
Okay. Favorite dessert.
I'm like an equal opportunist when it comes to dessert. I don't know, let's say if it was like the top level version of a cheesecake, like the best cheesecake is probably the best dessert that I can have.
Are you like New York cheesecake or are you like Italian cheesecake, that type of thing? You know, like one.
I don't like it when it's too dense. Like I want a softer textured cream cheese, and I want some sort of cream element, like a whipped cream or something else going on with it.
An activity you wish you did more of.
Hiking.
An activity you wish you did less of.
Does everybody say being on their phone?
A lot of people say like work or the busy work, or like, like going through emails or stuff like that? Scrolling through the phone, the
like
death
to
scroll is a big one. Yeah, it's a big one.
I just in general, like trying to get away from being on my phone, but so much of my work, like my wife will be like, "Oh, you're on social media." I'm like, "Yeah, babe. Like I gotta be. Like I'm putting something out there." So I'm not your average social media user, but we could always be on our screens less. That's for sure.
New activity, one you've recently tried, Jonah, that you like so much you want to tell all the listeners to try.
Okay. So I just did a lot of international traveling.
Okay.
And this sort of counts as activity. It's more of like a product plug, but honestly, it's like worth sharing with your listeners. And there's this product called Fly Kit that actually an old friend of mine started, and I didn't know he had started it when it was introduced to me. And then I was reading about it. I was like, "Oh, that's Andrew." They give you supplements, and they give you an AI generated like an app program based on the flights that you input, and it will tell you very amazingly based on like when you like to sleep and wake up, what your trip is, how long the flight is, blah blah blah, when to take the supplements, when to eat, when to nap, when to have caffeine, like all of this stuff. And I'm telling you, I was in Germany, Poland, Washington DC, New York, Los Angeles, and I never had jet lag, and I went to bed every night when I wanted to go to bed. I didn't wake up in the middle of the night.
This is awesome.
I woke up with these. It was total game changer.
So we're going to put this as a plug because we have enough professional speakers that listen to this podcast that would love to hear that because there's so much travel going on. I think that's.
I literally reached out to him. I was like, "Can I become a like brand partner?" And so we have like a phone call next week.
A couple of questions here specifically related to you and your content. We'll start off with this one. Today, other than yourself, we'll say pro-Jewish, pro-Israeli social influencer that you follow or go after the most today?
There's so many. Here's a good one for people to know about. Roots Metal, ROOTSMETAL. She does like educational deep dives. So it's not for the I want to scroll and look at something for 3 seconds crowd, but it's if you have 5 minutes and you want to learn a lot about a topic related to the Jewish community that is not one that's always necessarily being discussed or deep dived into, she's nailing it.
Gotcha. I think I'm between Noah Tishby because I feel like I'm getting my news informing and her messages on there, and Elon, who does the
Gold.
Yes.
Yeah.
Elon's funny, but also, who's the one from Israel who does like the word of the day? He's the historian. I'm going to send you to him. He's phenomenal. He breaks down like where a word came from, where.
I don't think I've seen that.
Oh, I will share that with you. We'll put that in the.
Share that with me. And Noah's coming on the podcast next month.
I can't. I would not be surprised, and I can't imagine to hear.
We had to get her in season 1. Couldn't be season 1 without Noah Tishby in there.
Absolutely. If I could snap my fingers, and Jonah Platt can be anywhere in the world.
Japan.
You've been not too long ago, recently, or never?
I went to Japan in 2018. It's the one and only time I've been to Asia at all, and I feel like in another life I was Japanese. Like I love their culture. I love so much. I mean, the food is Asian food's my favorite food. Japanese, I think, is the best, other than Korean barbecue. I love the way that they, sanctify and honor so much of life. Like if you're the garbage man or you're the president, like what you're doing is important. You want to do it well. You give it respect. You respect your tools. You respect the people around you. You respect your surroundings. Like I love that stuff. And a lot of other things. And also, every culture's got some weird stuff too, but generally there's some amazing stuff, amazing history, amazing innovation, just a really awesome place.
As I said in the beginning, Jonah, we appreciate everything you're doing. Keep creating this great content for Being Jewish. Everybody go check it out. Jonah Platt, Being Jewish, everywhere out there. Dude, thank you so much for coming on the program. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Lou. This is awesome. Appreciate you. Thank you.
To all our listeners and viewers out there, thank you for joining us. Until next time, keep moving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
Don't do side, baby, don't do side. And they try to give You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.